Tell us a little bit about what attracted you to painting when you first started painting.
I started in high school. I mean, I started drawing like a lot of artists all through my youth, and then took a break, and probably late in high school I had a bunch of art classes and really thought, wow, this is the best thing ever. I love this freedom. So I became an art major in college, and then I just like painting. I mean, it's ubiquitous, and it's a long tradition. So it's hard to avoid not seeing a painting, even though my parents aren't really artist types. And then after my intro to painting class, where we physically made paintings, was more like painting 2, where you could kind of come up with your own ideas. I love that. And I immediately stuck things on, like, oh yeah, I'm going to put stuff on the canvas. You know, I was 19 and very new to painting. I saw, you know, Rauschenberg and Jasper Johns, and that kind of was revelatory for me.
Both those artists and you too are putting things on the canvas, in my estimation, for kind of not only just like material reasons, but also for kind of conceptual reasons.
Yes. Yeah.
What would you say, you know, besides like a CD is reflective and it's round and it contains music, besides the fact that it really looks beautiful on a canvas, what are like some of the, like how do you choose the different things that you're going to put onto the surface of your canvases?
The CD also has information and the music, and I like putting information in there, even if it's hidden or even if you can't reach the information, but it's there. Kind of like, you know how they put a gold record into space
on the Voyager 1 in 1977.
And your Star Wars came out.
Carl Sagan.
Exactly. Like, I love that idea of we have all this information for a variety of people or humanoids or any sort of being or conscious being to see how they interpret it. And so I kind of like throwing a lot of stuff on there just in case it can communicate to you somehow.
Is it like an anthropological kind of urge?
Yes. Yeah. And I also just, when I moved to New York, I was just alarmed by the trash when I moved here, and came to really enjoy it as sort of an adventure, a trash adventure in my neighborhood in Bushwick. When I moved there, it was like really coming out of the industrial times of those spaces, and it was really neglected. Streets weren't cleaned, and there was incredible trash, like trash you don't really see nowadays. But I'm in the habit of looking on the sidewalks whenever I go on walks, and you know, in New York, and just something will just strike my fancy, you know, for no particular reason. Just, I want to pick that up, even though it's dirty.
and then something I feel like is more in this show, a kind of process thing that you're doing more of, as versus some of the works that, like in 2016, for instance, it seems like you're fooling with the trash more, you know, like changing it, transforming it through paint or layering it up. Like, tell me about how you make those choices to like make a big piece of glass red, or how you sort of draw with the trash.
Yeah, it is like drawing in that it's kind of a discovery process. And I am always looking for sort of weird correlations, weird serendipitous happenings, with the trash and with whatever else, whatever other imagery might be in there, or color, or history, or just formally. There's a lot of coincidence that can occur, and I go with it. I want to point out, like, how things can intersect, like even when you're not trying to make something intersect. So yeah, it's like discovery. It's like you're going and you go. Like, I did not plan on that piece being painted red. I just left it because that, to me, that's what would make a better painting. And the goal is always to make a good painting, whatever that is. And so that's the plan.
So you would call yourself like a more intuitive kind of worker with color, not so much like you're not trying to do something like Kirchner, like make a primary colors painting or a tertiary colors painting. It's more intuitive in the process.
Yeah, the process starts with sanding the gesso, and I mean even tapping in the tacks. So it's along the way what I'm doing, a painting will sort of start to reveal itself in a way, or show me like its personality or a mood it might have. But even then, you don't know what you're going to get in the end. Things change, and I want to remain open. It's important for me to remain open. But at the same time, when you've been working for a long time on something like painting, you kind of have a feel for the materials, a feel for composition, the basics. So it's not really all intuitive. You're building on your experience, but maybe that allows you to be more open towards what's happening, not try and force anything.
Right. I guess I always think like I had to get a lot of things out of the way, a lot of experiments out of the way, and sort of have your own approach to like choosing color or composition or those kinds of things. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, I sort of see maybe three, definitely more, but I'm sort of sensing there are kind of three maybe different types of paintings going on here. And let me tell you what I mean.
Okay.
I sort of feel like there's like a landscape painting that you're making and referring directly to like the earth, the landscape. I feel like there's some that have more of like, they're really sitting on the wall, and it's about the vertical surface, and it's about things hanging on something vertically, like the suspension of that kind of notion that we have that these things came off the ground, and then I feel like there's this kind of window also that you make. Do you sort of see it that way, or like I think my paintings are kind of a mix of either like text, creatures, or landscape. I feel like. How do you think of sort of your different approaches to some of the work that's here in the show? Yeah,
at base, always a landscape, and I like to have the vertical format because it sort of hides that. Maybe it's usually like a portrait or whatever. So a landscape, I like landscape painting a lot, and so I always have that to fall back on, and I always think of the space that way, where it could be a vast landscape, and the figure could be very small, or you can have large structures in there and a big sky, things like that. But I feel free to ignore the landscape as well, because to me it's like always there, almost a given. And so I can more add things like what you're saying, like things that are flat, put vertically. and play with just the phenomenon of looking at an object, or
you have one in the show called Amarillo Superhero, which is so fun to say. Is this an homage to a place? And if so, is the idea of homage something that you work with in your project?
Sometimes, because if it happens, it happens, and if I see things lining up a certain way, I'll push it. With that one, random marks that I had made, probably not with too much deliberation, sort of created a figure in my mind, and I went ahead and put boots, like kind of high heel boots on this figure. It was a woman, a powerful woman, and she was like a superhero to me, and the painting happened to be mostly yellow, so it was like, oh, Amarillo superhero, it's fun to say. Like, that's how the title came about, but a lot of other things are happening in that painting, and it's like and she's at the bottom. She has this space to fly around in, or go on a trek in, or an adventure. Yeah, so there's no pat answer for anything, I feel. It's like, so what you're saying about the intuitive decisions, yeah.
But the nature of homage, like you're not necessarily, or let me start a different way. Do you ever start with the idea of like for instance, you've got a cobra in the painting behind you.
Yeah.
Is it ever something like, I really want to do a painting about a snake, or that includes a snake, and that's the reference point, or is it always discovering once the formal process is underway? Is that the way that, is there an intention from the beginning, or is it kind of like that finding in with the hands?
And the process starts with, for a long time now, with mustard seeds. And so I put mustard seeds on the surface after
Why mustard seeds?
Because they were at the bodega at the time when I first started doing this, and their mustard seed has a long tradition in ancient texts, because they're so small and they're very round, and so people would refer to a mustard seed. This is before they knew about atoms. So if you wanted to mention something really small, you would use a mustard seed as a metaphor for something really minuscule. And so I would start with that, and the mustard seeds start creating a composition, which is, to me, helps me a lot, because I need something to get me started with that. And so the cobra came after the mustard seeds were there.
Can I pause you for a second?
Yeah.
How do you toss the mustard seeds? Like it's like a chance thing that you're engaging with. Okay.
I can always change things too if I don't like it. It's like I'm not like got to follow a rule. I don't want rules so much, but I have a process.
That's how I read tarot cards. If I don't like it, I pick another one.
Why not? That's like, yeah, it's sort of mediated chance,
right?
For sure. So the mustard seeds are that, and then the string came later, but that's usually what I do next, and that helps start putting line in the work. And I like to have line somehow, and that's an easy way to do it. And then the cobra was a drawing. Well, it was a Xerox that I've had in my studio for a long time, that I used to teach kids when we were studying Egypt. And all of a sudden, we're like, why don't I? This thing's been in my studio on my wall for years. Why don't I finally use it? And it's like, okay, I'll do it on this one, because I liked how big it was going to be, like kind of almost eye level, and I don't know, it just works out like that.
It seems like one of the themes that you're talking about, Mike, over and over again, is that you've got this really direct relationship to what you're attracted to.
Mm-hmm.
If it's on the ground, you can see it as something that you want to pick up. If it's something in your stuff that you've been, us artists have piles and piles of, hope and
I like that, piles of hope.
And we're always trying to mix in, to make things full.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that really shows. One other thing I wanted to kind of ask you about was, and there's a couple of other things, but one thing that feels really at the forefront of our discussion possibly is the kind of way that we're in an environmental crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure because we're both sensitive people, it's on your mind as much as it's on my mind.
Mm-hmm.
When you started your project, did it contain those same kinds of ideas? I mean, certainly we're about the same age. The environment's been fragile-ish since we were kids. Give a hoot, don't pollute, sort of stuff.
I love a clean San Diego, don't you? That was a commercial that ran on TV a lot when I was growing up.
So would you say that there's, and I know that you love the outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
I know you love to hike and camp and be outdoors and travel. And I guess I'm just wondering, do you see your paintings as like harbingers or Cassandras or warnings, or more factual, or more about this attraction to objects, or all of those things? I know that it's a risky business for artists to figure out what they want people to walk away from with, but is there like something under that category of hope that we were just talking about that you hope people get from your work and walk away with or consider while they're in front of your work?
Yeah, I do. I am aware of the environmental part of that, but what I really at bottom want them to come away with, maybe from what you said, is maybe an expanded aesthetic. Like a broken CD can be beautiful. Or, I mean, I'm not the first artist to do that, but it's like definitely something I'm interested in. It's like, if you can make, a coin something to, contemplate, or a piece of string, or it's just, which is everywhere, it's like then you've expanded people's sort of relationship with their world, and you maybe expand what they accept or find beautiful, or at least consider, Yeah, I'm not saying like, we should litter more so we have more beautiful things. We should but we should be aware of it, or I don't know, but something like that, some sort of expanded, eyes wider open type thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think the last thing I wanted to talk about was your relationship to color.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know any painters that aren't fascinated with color.
Yeah.
I think also you and I really love music, and I think we've talked before how color is certainly not solely related to music, but it definitely plays a part in how we think about color, music. Would you talk a little bit about your relationship to color? And I noticed a few song titles, like Terrapin Station.
I wore my Grateful Dead shirt.
Right on. That's a really nice one. I'll accept that as payment for today. What do you think of for like music and color, and like your choosing of color? Do you have favorite colors? Are there colors you won't use?
No. I want to always. I'm open to colors, and I think in a way, all I need to do is use color as an artist, and I think color is enough for a painting to give somebody a sublime experience or whatever. I think like Rothko, or even an Ellsworth Kelly or something like that. But you have to be yourself too, and I've got all these other things I want to do besides just pure color. But color to me is like, that's all you need, really. And as far as music, I listen to music while I work.
Yeah.
I tried listening to podcasts, and I just can't. I don't know what they were saying.
There's some about the Grateful Dead.
I know, you've sent me some.
But I've listened to.
But I can't, like, I just forget I lose track of what they're talking about. But with songs and music, it doesn't matter as much. Like, it's like kind of is there in the air, and your body can just use it while you're focusing on something else. But that's my own shortcoming, or the way I work. I just can't listen to people talk as much. When I cook, I like to listen to podcasts. But,
interesting.
But yeah, when I'm in my studio, it's music, and it's usually a certain type where I'm not going to get carried away and start dancing around. It's more just like stay a little bit more chill.
Right.
Focus.
One other thing, it's so nice to see so many of your works all together.
Oh, thanks.
And I wonder about the nature of series in your work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I guess this is kind of like a circling back to that question about the kind of grouping different types of Mike Olin paintings that I see. Do you think of yourself as someone who works in series?
At one time I was, but not anymore. Now I told someone that I work in batches.
Okay.
Because I have a lot of sort of things that I sort of repeat or build off of, and so if I'm working on a painting in the process, it's showing to me, all right, this would be a good candidate for this type of painting that you've made in the past. You can fold your experiences into what this is revealing. But then another one might say, oh, this one needs to be red. You know, it's like, I'll just go with that. So I make like batches, but I do work at several at a time. But they're not series. Long ago they were series when whereas following more of an experimental singular path. But now I kind of like all the experiments I've done, like feel open to bringing that to whatever needs to be, done.
And that's related to the title of the show, Infinite Get, somehow?
I think so.
That infinite kind of potential?
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking, in cosmic terms, and just sort of the gratitude I have for being alive, and like we get all this stuff from our universe and our earth and our world and our people, and just a thankfulness, but it also has other connotations and meanings. Infinite Jest is a book I loved reading, and getting something is like kind of a sort of an enlightenment experience. Wow, I get it. It's nothing like so pinned down, but except for the cosmic part, I like how it just talks about the infinity of it all. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for talking to me.
Thank you so much, EJ. I appreciate it.